Good morning, everybody. Good Yontif.
Good Yontif.
Whether you're in the sanctuary or at home, we want to welcome you here. This is a great day. A word about the scene and what's going on here. So based on our numbers last night for each of the Kol Nidre services, we had about 70, 75 people here in the sanctuary, which is about what we have now, maybe a little bit more. And we had almost 250 households tuning in from each service. So this is actually a big service, but you get to be comfortable. Wherever you are, whether it's here or at home, we want everybody comfortable and most of all, safe. So a few announcements as we get started. Project Isaiah is in full effect. Bring your food and your winter coats to take care of our neighbors in need. The barrels will be available through Sukkot. We would ask that you turn your cell phones off. And just a reminder that masks should be worn over nose and mouth for the entire time that you're in the building. If you have a special honor during the service, please make sure you check in with our gabbis in the front row. Okay? Immediately following the Gimel service, we'll hear brief remarks from Senator John Ossoff, to be followed by our Yom Kippur speaker, AJC's Dov Wilker. Rabbi Colbert will be leading our healing service at 3:30 with Dr. Artie Gummer. Mincha study session begins at 4:10. The Yizkor Ne'ilah begin at 4:30. And this will all take place in the sanctuary. Our final shofar blast will be right around 6 o'clock. We would be remiss if we didn't thank our Temple co-presidents, Robert Wittenstein and Edie Disner, our board of trustees, and you, our Temple of Emanu-El members who make TE the amazing place that it is. Your membership allows the holiness of this place to shine. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, a word about our Machzor, the liturgy and the sermons and the service. Your clergy team has put forth our very best effort to bring you the most poignant readings, the most sublime parts of the liturgy, and to bring you the most meaningful sermon that we can. But friends, all of these things are just vehicles. Your Yom Kippur experience will directly reflect what you put into it. Yom Kippur is supposed to act as a mirror for you to see yourself in a very bright light. So whether or not you look into the mirror is up to you, and no Machzor or piece of liturgy or specific sermon can do that for you. Our hope is that you enter this space not as an observer, but with active intention. That you put aside excuses and blame so you can be here with a profound sense of emes, truth. So you can say, Hineni, here I am. Part of being an Am Kedusha, a sacred community, is knowing with whom we're worshiping. Our pianist is our very own Ann Rollins. With me on the bima is Cantor Lauren Adesnik. I'm Rabbi Spike Anderson. So whether you're online, if you're online, give a shout out, say Shana Tova and Good Yontif. If you're here, turn to the people around you. Turn around to the side and say, hey, how are you? Good morning, Good Yontif. Nice to see you. My name is.
Join us, Ma Tovu.
rise for the Baruch on page 178. Close the ark. We can be seated. Page 181. In the middle, please join me together. Like an unbroken current, energy streams from the source, bathing the planet in light, calling forth life, movement, mind unfolding from matter, the power to love. And we offer it back to you, our own creative energy, ever dreaming, building, shaping patterns out of chaos, searching out light in the darkness. Creation never ceases, not for an instant. All life is aglow within your light. All things draw sustenance from the source. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMeorot. Our praise to you, Adonai, creator of the lights and heavens. We rise and get ready for our Shema. Page 186, feeling our feet on the ground.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Please be seated. Via Havta continues on page 188 and 191.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני
Adonai Elohechem.
אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Page 196, we have Mi Chamocha, our prayer of gratitude.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך לדור בקודש, לא רזילות וספלת.
Turn to page 201. Without profound reverence for father and mother, our ability to observe the other commandments is dangerously impaired. The problem we face, the problem I as a father face, is why my child should revere me. Unless my child will sense in my personal existence acts and attitudes that evoke reverence, the ability to delay satisfactions, to overcome prejudices, to sense the holy, to strive for the noble. Why should she revere me? We rise for our Amidah, page 200.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Koneh HaKol v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imot U'mevii Geula לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה זוכרנו לחיים מלך חפץ לחיים וכותבנו בספר החיים למענך אלוהים חיים מלך עוזר מושיע ומגן ברוך אתה
Baruch Baruch
אדוני
Shemo.
מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה
Amen.
אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע מחכה חיים וחסד מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים רופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה מי כמוך אל הרחמים זוכר יצוריו לחיים ברחמים ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל ברוך אתה
Baruch
אדוני
Baruch Shemo.
מחיי הכל
Amen.
אמן
Please be seated. Page 206. On Rosh Hashanah, this is written on the fast of Yom Kippur. It's sealed. Who will live and who will die? Who will reach the ripeness of age? Who will be taken before their time? Who by fire and who by water? Who by earthquake and who by plague? Who will rest and who will wander? Who will be tranquil and who will be troubled? I sat in shul for years reading these words before I realized the answer. The answer to each of these questions is me. Who will live and who will die? I will. Who at their end and who not at their end? Me. Like every human being, when I die, it will be at the right time, and it will also be too soon. Fire, water, earthquake, plague. In my lifetime, I've been scorched and drowned, shaken and burdened, wandering and at rest, tranquil and troubled. This has been my life's journey. Of course, I prefer to deflect this truth. I would much prefer to let the prayers talk about someone else, perhaps the fellow in the next row over. It's taken a lifetime to reveal that defense as a lie. The prayer is not about someone else. It's about me. It's a frightfully succinct summary of my existence. So now I read it again, but in the first person, and it makes me shiver. I will live and I will die at the right time and before my time. I will wander, but I might yet find rest. I will be troubled, but I may achieve tranquility. This is the central truth of the high holidays. That's what makes them Yamim Noraim, the days of terror. We are vulnerable. Page 208. Let us proclaim the power of this day, a day whose holiness awakens deepest awe and inspires highest praise for your dominion. For your throne is a throne of love, your reign is a reign of truth. Page 212.
Rosh Hashanah. Yom Kippur, Yom Kippur, Yechateimu, Rosh Hashanah, Yechateimu, Yom Kippur, Yom Kippur,
Rosh Hashanah, this is written on the fast of Yom Kippur, this is sealed together. How many will pass away from this world? How many will be born into it? Who will live and who will die? Who will reach the ripeness of age? Who will be taken before their time? Who by fire and who by water? Who by war and who by beast? Who by famine and who by drought? Who by earthquake and who by plague? Who by strangling and who by stoning? Who will rest and who will wander? Who will be tranquil and who will be troubled? Who will be calm and who tormented? Who will live in poverty and who in prosperity? Who will be humbled and who exalted? But through return to the right path, through prayer and righteous giving, we can transcend the harshness of the decree.
Uteshuva ותפילה וצדקה מעבירים את רוע הגזרה.
The priestly benediction is one where the Kohanim of old would chant in the most traditional of melodies, offering blessing, imploring protection, offering a chance to strive for the people of Israel. We rise for our priestly benediction, page 244.
Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Baruchenu habracha המשולשת הכתובה בתורה. יברכך אדוני וישמרך.
Can you hear our song?
Yair Adonai Padla Velecha Vichoneka.
Can you hear our song?
Yisa Adonai Padla Velecha Ve'asem Lecha Shalom.
Can you hear our song? May God bless you and keep you. May God's countenance shine upon you and be gracious to you. May God's face turn towards you and grant you the greatest gift of all, the gift of peace, to which we say, Amen.
Amen.
We remain standing for Avinu Malkeinu, page 252. Okay, we'll open the ark. Please alternate with me. Avinu Malkeinu, Almighty and merciful, hear our voice.
Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you.
Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and our families.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror.
Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the book of lives well lived.
Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a year of goodness.
Avinu Malkeinu, let our hands overflow with your blessings.
Avinu Malkeinu, let our eyes behold the dawn of redemption. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love.
Avinu Malkeinu, Choneinu Malenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Choneinu Malenu, Ki Emanu Mashim. Aseh Emanu, Tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh Emanu, Tzedakah v'chesed, v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu,
please be seated. And I'm looking for Edie Disner. Come on up, Edie.
Good Gentif. Welcome to our Temple Emanu-El community here and through the waves of technology. We're glad that everybody is here today, and I thank you. We began this morning singing together, Ma Tovu Ohayeka Yisrael, Mishkeno Teka Yisrael. How beautiful are your tents, Yaakov, your dwelling places, Yisrael. 2 years ago, I stood here on this bima to ask you to help make our Mishkan, our tabernacle, our house of worship, a space of warmth and elegance worthy of God's presence, a beautiful place where God dwells. We set a goal and we achieved it. Actually, we exceeded it. We completed phase 1 and phase 2. We refreshed our Brill Social Hall. We built both the Schiffer Family Terrace Chapel and the Goldstein Patio right outside those doors. And we refurbished our kitchen. For many of us, when we walk into this building, we feel a sense of pride. For others, this is their first year of membership at Temple Emanu-El. Imagine what they thought when they walked into our beautiful building for the first time. I hope that they felt the warmth and elegance that we strived for. For just a minute, think back. The first time you walked into your home, whether it's your primary residence, your lake house, your mountain cabin, your beach cottage, you feel at home here. Do you remember your first impression? Were you excited to walk inside? Thinking as you were driving in the driveway, I can immediately see my family making a life under this roof. Now imagine if that driveway to that home had been riddled with potholes. The steps you had to ascend to get to the front door were flanked by a retaining wall that was barely retaining. The house numbers were rusted, and you had to park really far away from the front door because nothing was accessible. Well, at Temple Emanu-El, we don't have to imagine that scenario. This is our reality. Those potholes and aging retaining walls and rusted signs, they're just outside our front door. If you are not able-bodied, you are literally physically challenged to get to the front door to enter this beautiful building. This is stage 3 of our campus refresh. And once again, I'm standing here asking for your help. Our ushers, I think, will be walking around to collect the pledge cards that you received when you arrived. I'm asking for you to support to the very best of your ability. If you haven't already if you haven't already made your pledge for this year's High Holiday Appeal, please do so now. The ushers have extra cards if you've misplaced yours from when you walked in. If you're streaming services, you can click on the support button on our website and donate towards the 2021 High Holiday Giving. Each of us, as our Temple Emanu-El community, has the opportunity to contribute to the beauty of our Mishkan, to be proud of every inch from the street, along the driveway, through the building, and out the back door. I know we can meet or exceed our goal as we have in recent years. Together, we can make it happen. If you're fasting, may you have an easy fast, and I hope each of you will be sealed for a good year.
Thanks, Edie. We'll just wait a moment while folks take a look at their pledge cards. And we rise for our Torah service on page 256. If I could have co-presidents up here with me. Reese, come on up.
Adonai, Adonai, Rachum v'chanun, Erech Apayim, Rav Chesed v'emet, Lo tzir chesed la'alafim, Lo se'avon v'fesha, v'chata v'nakeh. Adonai, Adonai, God, compassionate, gracious, endlessly patient, loving, and true, showing mercy to the 1000th generation, forgiving evil, defiance, and wrongdoing, granting pardon. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh v'norah Shemo, Gadlul Adonai iti, u'nerom ima Shemo yachtav, Lecha Adonai hagedula v'hagevura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hahod, ki hu b'shamayim u'va'aretz, ki hu b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Lecha Adonai hamelacha v'hamit la'aseh l'chol rosh. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'yishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'yishtachavu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Sing after me. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Yai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai.
Rabbi Yoshi Zweibach shares with us words from our Torah reading. You'll find on page 265 his intention. I've put before you life and death, blessing and curse. Choose life if you and your offspring would live. Rabbi Eliezer Daviditz asked the obvious question, is there a person who would choose death? What kind of choice is really being offered here? Wouldn't most everyone prefer life to death, blessing to curse? Here is his insight. There are two ways to choose life. The first way is the I way. If we want, we can choose to think about ourselves first. We can worry about our needs and our desires and our wishes, and only later will we consider the needs, desires, and wishes of others. But there's another way to choose life, another way to live our lives. This is the you way. Before we act, before we decide, before we speak, we can choose to think about how our actions, decisions, and words will affect others. We can think about how our behavior will affect future generations, including our own children and grandchildren. A real choice is, in fact, being offered. Do we want to live in a way that supports life in the broadest sense? Or do we live in a way that serves only ourselves, only our narrow interests? This narrow way, the second choice, ultimately leads not to life, but to death. The text for our Torah reading can be found starting on page 266. Our blessings on 258. Our cantor will call up the honors.
For the honor of blessing or our Torah, we call up Harriet Zoller and David Lombroso. And for the honor of chanting our Torah this morning, we call up Norman Zoller and Ruthie Levy. And we'll ask that our Torah chanters line up one behind the other, and Harriet and David each take a podium. Ya'amdu Chana David ben Natan la'aliyah laTorah.
Baruch Adonai Hamavrach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Havarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bacharvanu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen, amen. Atem nitzavim hayom, kulchem lifnei Adonai Elohechem, rashechem, shiftechem, ziknechem, v'shorachem, kol yish Yisrael, papachem, neshechem, v'gerecha, asher v'kerem makonecha, mekotei v'secha, Ad shohei memecha le'oraha bivrit Adonai Elohecha u'alato asher Adonai Elohecha kol reitimcha hayom leman hakimotecha hayom elo le'am Ehu yalcha le'Elohim ka'asher diber la ve'ka'asher nishba la'avotecha le'Avraham le'Yitzhak u'Yaakov ve'lo itekhem levadekem anoki korei et habrit hazot ve'ha'ala hazot ki asher yashno po iman Lifnei Adonai Eloheinu, ve'et asher Eneinu, po Emanu-El.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tohenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
All right, let's say the blessings before
Yeah.
again.
No,
Okay.
no. We've already done.
Okay.
Amen. Ki hamitzvah hazor asher anochi mesavacha hayom lo nifleti mimacha v'lo rachaka hi lo bashamayim hi lemor Yalelanu Ashamayma Yikachalanu Yashmienu Ota Venasena Velo me'ever layom hi lemor mi yavelanu Elerechayam Pikahelanu Yashmienu Ota Venasena Kikarov Elecha Adavcha Meor Beficha Vavacha Lasoto
To lead in the blessings following our Torah. Baruch atah
Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu, baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen.
Yasher Koach to our chanters. Friends, page 273 is our Misha Barak prayer. I'd ask everyone to rise. And with the open Torah, we say this prayer asking for a healing for those in our lives who are in need. Those who are in need of a healing of mind, of body, of soul, of relationship. If you are comfortable putting your arms around the people who you came in with, let's do that now. And if you have no one with you, feel my arms around you. We are all here together. Misha Barak, page 273.
Before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu mikol
bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema,
the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
refuah shlema. Remain standing, please, on page 274 for Hagba and Galila.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל. על פי אדוני ביד משה. יאללה לי 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 לי. יאללה לי 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 li li. One more time. Yalla li 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 li. Yalla li 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 li. Yalla li 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 li. Yalla li 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 li.
Please be seated. On page 276, you'll see the intention from the Haftarah, from the line, "Do not hide yourself from your own flesh and blood," which is verse 7. The Torah envisions a community that's based on a sense of social solidarity and common humanity. We are commanded to open our hands to those who are in need. Isaiah's words continue to resonate in our own day as a warning to the prosperous. If you hide the poor and the working class from your sight, you are apt to forget about them. You become self-obsessed and callous in your personal lives. You make political decisions that suit your own interests and ignore the impact on the majority of your fellow citizens. You live in separate enclaves of privilege, rarely interacting with those who live with far less than you have. And that way of life impoverishes us all. Do not hide yourself from your own flesh and blood, says the prophet Isaiah. Do not turn your back on the poor. Recognize your kinship with them. For the prophet, we are all one family, united in our humanity, and without one another, our community is not whole. Our Haftarah texts from the prophet Isaiah can be found on page 277. The blessings can be found on page 275. Our cantor will call up the honors.
For the honor of our blessing for the Haftarah and the Haftarah, we call up Avi Frank.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher behar binvim tovim v'ratzat b'divrehem hanemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai haboher b'torah v'Moshe avdo v'Yisrael amo v'inviei ha'emet v'atzedek. Kera v'garon al takso kashofar harem koleha v'haged lami pisham uveit Yaakov hatotam ve'oti yom yom idreshun v'da'at derachai yechpatzun kegoy asher tzedakah asa umishpat Elohai lo azav yishaluni mishptei tzedek kirvat Elohim yechpatzun lama tzamnu velo raita ininu nafshenu velo teda hen biyom tomhem timteu hefetz vehal atvehem tingoshu hen leriv umatza tatsumu ulehahot be'egrof reisha lo tatsumu chayom lehashmiya b'marom holehem.
Yasher Koach. Our blessings can be found on page 280. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzur kol haolanim, tzadik bechol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer ve'oseh, ha'medaber u'mekayem, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek. Al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al ha'neviim ve'al yom ha'kippurim hazeh שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו למחילה ולסליחה ולכפרה לכבוד ולתפארת על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד ודברך אמת וקיים לעד Baruch atah Adonai
Baruch Shemo
Melech mochel v'soleach la'avonoteinu v'la'avonot amo Beit Yisrael u'ma'avir ashmotenu b'chol shana v'shana Melech al kol ha'aretz mikadesh Yisrael ve'yom ha'kippurim Amen.
Please rise for Eitz Chaim, page 291.
Eitz Chaim hi lama chazikim ba v'tomecha meushar deracheha darchenom v'chol netivoteha shalom hashivenu
Adonai
Elecha v'nashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem.
Please remain standing for Ashamnu, page 291, 296. Our God and God of all generations, may our prayers reach your presence. And when we return to you, do not be indifferent. Adonai, we are arrogant and stubborn, claiming to be blameless and free of sin. In truth, we have stumbled and strayed. We have gone wrong. Ashamnu. Barnu Dofi.
Call after me, He'evi.
Zararnu,
Avinu,
Avinu,
Pashanu,
Pashanu,
Zararnu,
Sararnu,
Kishinu Oref,
Kishinu Oref, Aina, Aina, Aina,
Rashanu,
Rashanu,
Shichatnu,
Jichatnu,
Tiavnu,
Tiavnu,
Tainu,
Tainu,
Titanu.
Titanu. Together of these wrongs we are guilty. We betray, we steal, we scorn, we act perversely, we are cruel, we scheme, we are violent, we slander, we devise evil, we lie, we ridicule, we disobey, we abuse, we defy, we corrupt, we commit crimes, we are hostile, we are stubborn, we are immoral, we kill, we spoil, we go astray, we lead others astray. Are closed. Please be seated. Good Yontif. The Jewish expression for when we've fallen short of our best selves is called the chet, as in al chet shefachtanu lifanecha. Sometimes this is mistranslated as a sin, but it's more accurate to say that we've missed the mark. On Yom Kippur, we seek to adjust our efforts so that we can become both healed and whole. We call this teshuvah. Like any of the spiritual exercises in Judaism, you can do this anytime, but most of us don't, or can't, or won't. Honest assessment of self takes real courage. When you look into the proverbial mirror, you need to be ready to see. Today we do this as a community, which bolsters our resolve to face some difficult truths. I want to share two stories with you. Both are true. Each has vital lessons for us to learn. About 30 years ago, in the town of Billings, Montana, there lived a Jewish family. There weren't many Jews around, so the community was tight-knit and supportive. Each Sunday, Mom and Dad would take their young son to Sunday school, which was taught by other Jewish parents. At Hanukkah time, the kids made paper menorahs to tape onto their bedroom windows as a way of bringing the holiday into their home and Jewish pride into their lives. A few nights later, while the boy was sleeping in his bed, the Ku Klux Klan threw a rock through his window. Shattered glass rained down all over the bed covers. The Klan wanted to send a clear message about the open display of Jewish symbols and their disdain for the Jewish people. Thank God the boy wasn't hurt. His parents were horrified that anyone would do this and scared that their family had been targeted. The boy's father wanted to avoid any further attention and understandably wanted to retreat behind a wall of silence. I've been told that his reaction, as irrational as it might be, was to feel shame. Shame to have been targeted, shame to have felt so powerless, shame that he felt isolated and alone. The boy's mother, however, who was, by the way, not Jewish, took the opposite approach. She was furious that the Klan was trying to cower them, and rather than retreat into isolation, she spoke about it openly and called everyone that she knew. She called the other Jewish families in town. She called their Gentile neighbors. She called the school. She called the churches. She called the newspaper. The reaction of the town in this little corner of Montana was incredible. With a plan in mind, the newspaper printed a paper menorah in its next edition, and hundreds of families took that centerfold and taped it onto the windows of their homes. The Klan responded with more rocks through more windows. So, the newspaper printed the menorah again, and even more townspeople posted it, visibly, for everyone to see. The town brought in speakers to teach them about anti-Semitism and how to counter it. Pastors preached against anti-Semitism in church. The schools used this as a learning opportunity to teach that there is no place for hate of any kind. The culmination and the ending to this first story is that nearly everyone marched down Main Street. Each person carried their own menorah. Together, they stood shoulder to shoulder against anti-Semitism, bigotry, and hatred. The iconic photographs of the march show the townspeople, menorahs held high, staring into the camera, conveying strength and defiance. People of all colors and cultures, Native Americans wearing headdresses, next to neighbors in wheelchairs, next to African American pastors, next to school children, teachers, the mayor. I like this story. I've told it many times, usually to kids. It has just enough anti-Semitism to hint at the dangers without being overwhelming. We know that the rock through the window is a whitewashed example that represents thousands of years of Jew hatred, from Pharaoh to the Spanish Inquisition, from pogroms to Hitler's final solution. The rock through the window is just enough to remind us of what has happened before and what might happen again if we give anti-Semitism a pass. I like this story because it has the Jewish family refusing to be cowed despite their fears. And with it, they remind us of the lessons we learned from Nazi Germany. I like this story because it has the Gentile neighbors doing the right thing. For I want to believe that most people are good, and if given a chance to stand up for what's right, that they will. I like this story because the newspaper names the incident, and the editors attach a moral judgment to it. Hateful, unacceptable, wrong. And of course, I like this story because hundreds of people taping paper menorahs to their window and then marching together in solidarity means that the people of character have triumphed. It is literally the best possible outcome, and it lifts our spirits. The good guys overcome, the bad guys get shown up, and the problem goes away, at least in this version. Although I've talked about billing Montana in many settings, usually I reserve it for really tough situations. For instance, when one of our Temple Emanu-El families came to me because their second grade twins were told on the playground that they couldn't join in the game because they had killed Jesus and were going to hell. And when one of our Temple Emanu-El 8th graders was approached in the football locker room after practice by kids who demanded to see his horns. I've told this story when the confirmation class wanted to talk about Jews getting attacked by pro-Hamas thugs during this last round of fighting in Gaza. And I've used this story with college students who were subjected to blatant anti-Semitism on their campus by both students and professors alike. This story has led conversations with Jewish women who were rejected from marching in women's rights rallies because they wanted to display their Jewish star. This story is an opening for Jews who want to share their own experiences with microaggressions and blatant Jew hatred. It helps them feel less isolated, but also that we, as a community, are not helpless. We are capable. We are educated. And when we are at our best, we are organized and incredibly effective. But of course, we're also human, and we get distracted, and we get tired. We've seen the statistics and the reports telling us that in recent years, things have gotten worse. Just look at the ADL's website. So when we hear story after story after story about anti-Semitism, we begin to get desensitized, even the best of us, and we make excuses for it. I've observed that some of us will only call out anti-Semitism when it comes from the other political party, from the right or from the left, almost as if it's being celebrated. See, look how bad they are. Friends, the landscape is changing. Anti-Semitism is no longer part of the extreme. It's now becoming part of the mainstream. When we're quick to point out anti-Semitism when it's coming from people we oppose, but refuse to call it out from with our own ideologies, we are guilty of using anti-Semitism as a weapon. There are other excuses, like, we've dealt with worse, and it's true, we have. Or, I didn't know about it, and maybe you didn't, but now it's time to make sure that you do know what's happening. It's your people. It's your family. It's us. or the deflection of, that doesn't happen here, not in my neighborhood. And maybe it hasn't yet, until it hits home. Which brings me to my second story. This one from last week, 7 miles away at Pope High School. During the school day, some kids went into the bathroom and graffitied 2 big swastikas, along with the words, Heil Hitler. This is in addition to ripping sinks out of the wall, breaking glass, and vandalizing stall doors. Now, the way that I see it, there are 3 major problems here. First, that this happened at all. Second, Pope High School's response, and even more so, the response from Cobb County's Board of Education. Third, the Jewish community's anemic reaction. Teenagers from our confirmation class shared that they thought that these were just kids being idiots, and they sure were. But their choice of what to graffiti wasn't a swear word, but rather the words, Heil Hitler. I'm not suggesting that these kids are neo-Nazi masterminds. I have no idea what ideologies they've been exposed to. But for sure, there's something in the zeitgeist that made them write these words in particular. 3 generations after the Nazi defeat, the swastika is still a call sign for white supremacy. To the Jewish minority, it conjures up images of our grandparents being sent to the gas chambers. It triggers in us epigenetic trauma. Hours after the hate symbols were discovered, Rabbi Larry Cernovitz from Temple Kol Emeth was at the school having an intense dialogue with the principal. Many of the Jewish kids at Pope are also part of the Kol Emeth community. Rabbi Cernovitz told me that the principal seemed to understand why we Jews were so concerned and angered by the Nazi graffiti, but that his ability to communicate with the student and parent body about this type of thing had to go through the Cobb County Board of Education's communication department, who, for some reason, were opposed to having the facts about the Nazi symbols known. This is a result of the Cobb County School Board having passed a resolution in June banning critical race theory or anything that resembles it. Unlike the school in Billings, Montana, Pope High School is not allowed to use this incident to teach any history or values or lessons. Not what Hitler's ideology was, or his calculations towards genocide, or his views on race superiority. This also means that schools like Pope are strongly discouraged from inviting organizations like the Anti-Defamation League to teach the kids and the teachers how to address these incidents, or to create an atmosphere where the kids would be upstanders, standing up for one another against hate of any type. Under this resolution, it was determined that teaching about the Nazi symbols and the terror that came with them was forbidden because it would make some people feel uncomfortable. Meaning, I assume, that some white people would be uncomfortable talking about the murder of 6 million Jews because we were not Aryans. Notice how the decision has been made that it's okay that the Jews are uncomfortable by ignoring the hate directed at us. Our Jewish kids are supposed to go back to school as if it never happened, as if nothing is wrong. When you deny a people's history, you deny lessons from that history. How can we teach never again when we aren't even allowed to talk about it? The third problem with what happened at Pope High School last week is the Jewish community's ambiguous response. Let me make myself clear. This is not Cole Emmeth's problem. This is not the Jews of Cobb County's problem. This is our problem. Yours, mine, ours. Are we applying the lessons of Billings, Montana to our current situation at Pope High School? Did we reach out to the Jewish families there so that they wouldn't feel isolated and alone? Did we drag the hate symbols into the light? Did we garner support from our neighbors and engage them in acts of solidarity? Did we send a message that hate will not win? Not with our kids, not on our watch. No. We gave Pope High School and Cobb County Board of Education a pass. In Atlanta, we have superb professional Jewish organizations who make it their business to address anti-Semitism. ADL, AJC, Hillel, Birthright, Federation. And it's on us to support them and the work that they do, but it's not enough. It's not enough. Remember that our identity burns brightly from within and is not the funhouse refraction that some people portray onto us. We can no longer afford to be desensitized to the current reality. We can't wish this away. So, we need to get involved. We need to build bridges. And we need to call out anti-Semitism whenever we see it relentlessly, not just to our adversaries, but also to our allies. If this call to action is calling to you, I want to hear from you after Yom Kippur. Our al-hate is that we have been lulled into complacency. This year, our tshuva is to have pride in who we are as the Jewish community. This year, our tshuva is to stand up for ourselves. This year, our tshuva is to stand against hate in all of its forms. Then, maybe we can begin to heal ourselves and our children's future and the American dream. Ken Yiratzon. May it be God's will. Good Yontif.
Hayom, 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 hayom te'amseinu, amen. Hayom, 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 hayom tevarchenu, amen. Hayom, 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 hayom tegadlenu, amen. Gmar Tov, everyone.